Today we are going to understand about the short story written by Jack London, Living the Valley. In this story, Buck leads the happy life of a domesticated dog at a ranch in California. However, his life of comfort is soon turned upside down when he is stolen from home and sold to a life of brutal labor as a sledge dog. Set in the Yukon Territory of northwest Canada during the 19th century Klondike Gold Rush. So first of all, let us locate where this place is referred to by the narrator. This is the map where you will see San Diego. Later on you will know. And this one is Puget Sound. So we are talking about Yukon and Northwest Territory. Here is the Northwest Territory. And it is one of the state of United States, California. And most of the dog breeds are here. Very strong, full of hair and energetic. So the people were moving towards this North Territory here where yellow metal was discovered, and the greed arose in the number of people to find and search the gold metal there. So let us know about the author. Jack London was born in January 12, 1876 and died in November 22, 1916. Was an American author best known for writing The Call of the Wild. Jack London was his pen name, likely born in San Francisco, California as John Griffith Chaney. Like the restive characters, here restive means restless. In his works, London sought a variety of experiences as a young man, including sailor, hobo, and an agitator for jobs during the Depressions. He also wrote some of the earliest dystopian fiction, including The Iron Heel, which portrays America under tyrannical rule, written 10 years before the Bolsheviks took over Russia. During his vagrant period, he spent 30 days in the Erie County Jail in New York. Books written by him, some I have mentioned here, but there are numerous books. You can browse it. Daughter of the Snows, The Sea Wolf, The Star Rover, White Fang. Point of view of the author is that he highlights the condition of the animals, how badly the people were treating the animals in the 19th century. The Call of the Wild by Jack London narrates Buck's life of hardship and struggle for survival and ultimately his emergence as a leader in the wild. This extract from the novel describes his kidnapping by the treacherous Garden Help Manual. The word treacherous here means betrayal. That means cheated the animal. Buck did not read the newspaper, or he would have known that trouble was brewing, not just for himself but for every dog that was strong of muscle and with warm long hair from Puget Sound to San Diego. So the narrator is telling us from the viewpoint of animal language. That means the expression here is reflecting from the point of view of animal. He is trying to tell us that had the animal knew how to read the newspaper about their coming danger, they might have taken the safety measures. Because the dog from the Puget Sound, this is the inlet, from here to San Diego, the dog were very strong physically and having long hair. That means full of fur. They can survive in the cold climate, extreme cold climate. So let us see once more the map. Here is San Diego, which is one of the state of United States, that is California, and this is Puget Sound that you can see here. It is in the form of picture, it appear here. So the people, they kidnapped the dog and they sailed out to the people who are going to the northern land in search of yellow metal. So that was the location from where the dogs were collected and kidnapped. Now let us, because men groping in the Arctic darkness, had found a yellow metal. This yellow metal is a gold, and because steamship and transportation companies were booming to find all, they were moving forward towards that northern land territories where that yellow metal was discovered. The thousands of men were rushing into the northern land. These men wanted dogs, and the dogs they wanted were heavy dogs with strong muscles by which to toil and furry coats to protect them from the frost. Buck lived at a big house in the sun-kissed Santa Clara Valley. George Miller's place it was called. So this dog was not the kennel nor the house dog. He was living like aristocratic life. Such a huge dog Buck was. And his master was George Miller and living in this house, sun-kissed Santa Clara Valley. So let us watch the short video clips before we continue further explanation and enjoy the story.
Welcome to the team.
Hope you enjoyed the clip and you could understand what was the condition Buck was going on with. It stood back from the road, half hidden among the trees, through which glimpses could be caught of the wide, cool veranda that ran around its four sides. Here it is giving us the information about where the dog was staying in his master house, describing about the residential area of his master. The house was approached by gravelled driveways which wound about through wide spreading lawns under the boughs of tall poplars. At the back, things were on an even more spacious scale than at the front. So, in front was the space little bit narrow, but behind the back it was open wide. Large spacious area was there. There were great stables where a dozen grooms and boys held forth, rows of vine-clad servants' cottages, an endless line of outhouses, long grape arbors, green pastures, orchards, and berry patches. So these were things planted and the people were looking after the things well. Then there was the pumping plant for the well and the big cement tank where Judge Miller's boys took their morning plunge and kept cool in the hot afternoon. And over this great demesne Buck ruled, and the dog was living in such a big palace. Here he was born and here he had lived the 4 years of his life. That means puppyhood. He had enjoyed the life of aristocrat, rich life. And over this great demesne Buck ruled. Here he was born and here he had lived the 4 years of his life. He can go anywhere and he can do such great things that other dogs cannot do. There could not but be other dogs on so vast a place. He was lucky enough to be staying in such a vast place of Judge Miller's house. But they did not count. It was not counted as important for him. They came and went, resided in the kennels or lived obscurely in the recesses of the house after the fashion of Toots, the Japanese pug, or Jezebel, the Mexican hairless strange creatures that rarely put nose out of doors or set foot to ground. So these were other dogs which are mentioned here that had been brought. Habits are not comparable with the Buck. On the other hand, there were the fox terriers, a score of them at least, who yelped fearful promises at Toots and Jezebel, looking out of the windows at them, and protected by a legion of housemates armed with brooms and mops. So most of the dogs were backed by the human being. That means the dogs were taken care. If so, the dogs were protected and defended by the caretaker, while Buck was not at all. Buck was undefeatable. But Buck was neither house dog nor kennel dog. The whole realm was his. The whole empire of Judge Miller's land was his. He plunged into the swimming. Anytime he can go anywhere. So first thing we are knowing here, during his puppyhood, what he did is he plunged into the swimming tank or went hunting with Judge's sons. He escorted Molly and Alice, the Judge's daughter, on long twilight or early morning rambles. On wintry nights he lay at the Judge's feet before the roaring library fire. So his habit was good enough but very mischievous. He carried the Judge's grandsons on his back. See how strong enough he was that he carried Judge's, that means his master, Honor's grandson on his back, or rolled them in the grass and guarded their footsteps through the wild adventures and guarded their footsteps through wild adventures down to the fountain in the stable yard. So the dog had given the company most of the time to the owner's sons and daughters, whether they are going for walk or going for adventures, and even beyond where the paddocks were and the berry patches. Among the terriers, he walked impartiously, and Toots and Jezebel he utterly ignored, for he was king, king over all creeping, crawling, flying things of Judge Miller's place, even human beings. So he was the king of Judge Miller's house. So we have heard about his 4 years, what he had done, and how he was living. Now, let us know about the family background of this dog. His father, Elmo, a huge Saint Bernard, had been the judge's inseparable companion, and Buck was fair to follow in the way of his father. He was not so large, he weighed only 140 pounds, for his mother, Shep, had been a Scotch Shepherd dog. So, about Buck's parents, we came to know that father was a huge Saint Bernard dog and mother's name was Shep, a Scotch Shepherd dog. Nevertheless, 140 pounds, the weight, to which was added the dignity that comes of good living and universal respect, enabled him to carry himself in right royal fashion. That dignity gave him the position of making himself as the king of all the animals where he was living. During the 4 years since his puppyhood, he had lived the life of satisfied aristocrat. So never he was disappointed with his life till 4 years. He had a fine pride in himself, was even a trifle egotistical, as country gentlemen sometimes become because of their insular situation, but he had saved himself by not becoming a mere pampered house dog. Hunting and such other outdoor delights had kept down the fat and hardened his muscles, and to him the love of water had been a tonic and a health preserver. In this picture, we are seeing how the daughters of Judge Miller's escorted by Buck. And this was the life of Buck in the fall of 1897, when the Klondike strike dragged men from all the world into the frozen north. That means northern land. All the men were trying their luck for the search of the yellow metal. But Buck did not read newspaper. This was the great disadvantage of animals during 19th century. Had they were trained to read the newspaper, I don't think so they will be able to cheat the animals. And he did not know that Manuel, the great culprit, one of the gardener's helpers, was an unreliable acquaintance. That means he was not trustworthy people of Judge Miller's. Manuel had one besetting sin. Manuel, he was having one demerits or bad habit. He loved to play Chinese lottery. So this is his bad habit of playing Chinese lottery. But to play required money, and the wages of a gardener's helper did not cover the needs of a wife and numerous family. So he was having his large family, and the wages that he was receiving after doing the gardener's help was not enough to maintain and survive his family. And as also he was having one bad habit to play Chinese lottery. So how to fulfill his requirement? The judge was at a meeting of the Raisin Growers Association, and the boys were busy organizing an athletic club on the night of Manuel's treachery, that you have seen how he trapped the dog in the short clip. No one saw him and Buck go off through the orchard on what Buck imagined was merely a stroll, and with the exception of a solitary man, no one saw them arrive at the little flag station known as College Park. There he had sold the dog with the person who were doing trading with the animal. This man talked with Manuel and money chinked between them. Just exchange of money had taken place. You might wrap up the goods before you deliver them, the stranger said gruffly in a rough voice, and Manuel doubled a piece of stout rope around Buck's neck under the collar. He quickly changed up the dog around the Buck's neck. Twist it and you will chalk them plenty, said Manuel, and the stranger grunted in agreement, and he agreed how he had advised him. Buck had accepted the rope with quiet dignity. Why? To be sure, it was an unwanted thing. But he had learned to trust man. This is the reason, okay, why Buck had accepted the rope with quiet dignity, because he had learned to trust the man he knew, since he was the gardener helper. That's why the animal knew him very well and gave them credit for a wisdom that was beyond his own. But when the ends of the rope were placed in the stranger's hand, no sooner the rope had handed to the stranger's hand, he growled menacingly, angrily. He had merely shown his displeasure in his pride, believing that to show his displeasure was enough. But to his surprise, the rope tightened around his neck, shutting off his breath. In quick rage, he sprang at the man, who met him halfway, grappled him close by the throat, hold him very near to the throat, and with a deft twist threw him over on his back. Then the rope tightened mercilessly while Buck struggled in a fury. Angrily, he was trying to run away, but it was so tightly tied that it was difficult for a unique dog. That means it was very difficult for him to run away. His tongue lolling out of his mouth, coming out from his mouth. It was tied so tightly that the tongue was coming out his mouth, and his great chest panting futilely. Never in all his life had he been so very badly treated, and never in all his life had been so angry, as he was living an aristocratic life. And now just imagine what a life he is living here. But his strength ebbed, his eyes glazed, and he knew nothing when the train was flanked and the two men threw him into the baggage car. And finally, in a train, he was loaded, and the train taken the dog to the market where the trading was going on. So finally, we end up our explanation. Hope you enjoyed the story and something you learn to your life too. Thank you.